Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat.
Resolves.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Hello, Magic fans. My name is DJ. This is the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel, and everyone's talking about Zendikar. There are a bunch of cool new cards in that set, but we'll talk about those later. With new sets, old sets rotate out of standard, and so I want to talk to you about War of the Spark and all of the cool cards that standard players used to be holding on to, and now they might be willing to part with. Now, in old days, rotation used to mean the prices of these cards fell out the bottom, but a lot of their prices now are tied to Commander, our format. So unfortunately, there's not this big price fluctuation. It's not this, you must buy these cards right now scenario. You've got some time. But this could remind you about some cool cards you might be missing for your collection, and you might have friends that are willing to part with these cards because they won't work in standard anymore. So let's get started with War of the Spark, and the first thing, oh hey, look at this right here, there's a Bolus. Let's talk about Bolus, Dragon God. Listen, for a mythic face card of the set, being $9 is really good. I mean, it has been reprinted like crazy in a bunch of different ways. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different copies of it, and the maximum one, I guess, is, $46, but look at the Secret Lair one. That Secret Lair one is pretty cool, and it's only $11. So you could get a pretty good copy of this and not have it cost too much when you're thinking about a real Planeswalker. It does mean that this is pretty limited for us. 5 mana, 4 loyalty, tick it up, everyone hates you. Or basically a 5 mana removal spell. So I don't think this is a just slam dunk in Commander, but it does have some nostalgia. It looks cool. It's got this amazing text of having loyalty abilities of other Planeswalkers. So definitely something to think about, but I don't think it's something you need to include in your decks. Here's something that is seen as not a really powerful card, but I think it's powerful for the price. Parhelion II is 19 cents. 19 cents. And no one can deny that this thing, if you can get it attacking, gives you value, because when it swings, it creates 2 attacking 4/4 angels. It's got a lot of hoops to jump through. 8 mana, crew it for 4. Yeah, it's not fitting in a lot of different decks, but if you're on a budget and you're looking for just this big dumb artifact, Parhelion II can get there. If you're looking to Duretti or Goblin Welder an artifact into play, if you're playing vehicles, this could be right for you. Again, I don't think this is going in a lot of different decks, but 19 cents is pretty good for the power level of this. Let's talk about something else. This is $4.50 for Spark Double. So this is pretty expensive for this effect, but it can copy a Planeswalker. That is the big thing that Spark Double has over many other clones. Some clones, by the way, they copy a Planeswalker and it doesn't come with any loyalty on it. This actually copies the Planeswalker and adds a loyalty to it, letting you do some stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to. I think that Planeswalker decks are going to be playing Spark Double all over the place, but remember, you can only have a copy of a creature or Planeswalker you control. The advantage of a lot of these clones is that you can target whatever's good on the battlefield. And so Spark Double is limited in that way. But I think this is going to be a staple for a long time. All right, Rolex Apex Hybrid. This is a mythic for only $2, and Rolex is incredibly powerful, and it has new life breathed into it from the Commander Rules Committee. It used to be that Rolex would have to go to your graveyard to proliferate, but now they changed the rule that says you can have it proliferate, and then still stick it back into the command zone. So Rolex, people were disappointed at it when it first came out, and now it's like, boom, the new hotness. And proliferate is very, very good. In fact, proliferate in general is really strong. And so I want to just shout out proliferate as a mechanic for +1/+1 counter decks, for planeswalker decks, for infect decks. Just tons of different decks can really take advantage of Proliferate. Like, yeah, if you add an extra counter, fine, but for most situations, you're adding, you know, a poison counter over here and pumping your whole team by +1/+1 and, you know, raising up this Planeswalker out of control. So take a peek at Evolution Sage, 62 cents, proliferate with every landfall. Flux Channeler, 35 cents, proliferate with each spell. And I love that it's non-creature spell too. So that you can play a Planeswalker, proliferate your other Planeswalkers, play another Planeswalker, proliferate all the Planeswalker. Chef's kiss. Then we have just Contentious Plan. This seems really innocuous, very cheap at 16 cents, but Proliferate is such a powerful mechanic in a deck that supports it. You just want this kind of card. Let's move on to some of the powerful cards in black, and I have loved Command the Dreadhorde. This 50-cent card can play with the power the Commander format gives us. We start with 40 life, and life is something that we can easily get. And so being able to spend it like currency to get a whole army back from any graveyard is key. So when you talk about these mass reanimation effects like Living Death and Rise of the Dark Realms, you're talking about pretty expensive cards. Like Living Death is like a $4 to $5 card even through reprints. Rise of the Dark Realms just got reprinted and that dropped it down to $15. This Command the Dreadhorde can hang with them, allowing you to kind of pick and choose your reanimation a little bit more. And it's 6 mana and some life. It's just really good. But most importantly, it's that 50-cent price tag. All right, let's look at the more powerful black card that lets you play with your life, Bolus Citadel, and the more powerful artifact that we've talked about today too. Bolus Citadel is gross. It's an amazing artifact. You can look at the top card of your library and you can cast spells from the top of your library just by paying life. Again, we have tons of life to play with. Bolus Citadel can just go off. The power of playing off of the top of your library is huge. I'm a big fan of Future Sight, and I think that this mechanic is really good because every card you play, like, it just cascades. It's like letting you draw more and more cards and get further and further ahead. So this gives you card advantage and mana advantage together. Not to mention the sacrifice 10 non-land permanents and like you deal 30 damage. You know, that's crazy. This is something that literally ends games. If you listened to me on Twitter, you would have gotten this for, actually, it was this promo version that was really cheap. You could have gotten this promo version for like $1.25. That's now $7. You should listen to me. I'm smart. Finance. What up? No, but this is also not going to be reprinted very easily. You can't just stick Bolus' Citadel in Kaldheim or, you know, Zendikar Resurgent. You just can't. So the fact that this can't go everywhere means that it's not easily reprinted, and so $4.25 might be something you want to spend for this effect. All right, let's talk about a powerful card that you can use in your Planeswalker decks. Coming in at 50 cents, just being able to target Planeswalkers and then build yours up is great. I think this is too narrow for many of you. You might know your meta and know you have Planeswalkers you need to kill, and you might know you have Planeswalkers in your deck. But if you meet those criteria, the Elder Spell can help you ultimate a Planeswalker, which is sometimes just a guaranteed win. All right. Nisha, who shakes the world. This has been a plague on Standard. It's so good. This doubling effect of mana is really strong. We've seen it in Mirari's Wake, Vernal Bloom, and then a lot of these effects do command a price tag. People like playing with big mana decks, and Nisha helps us create a big mana deck while also like giving us protection for Nisha and really solid attackers. I also like the added ability of being able to untap your forests after you tap them to kind of provide pseudo ramp. And then it certainly provides you ramp when you ultimate this. When you ultimate it, you kind of don't even need the doubling effect anymore because you've just doubled your mana by pulling every forest out. It's really good. It hits on every front. It's a really solid Planeswalker to have. The only thing that I don't like is it being vulnerable. You know, it's not an enchantment. It's something that can easily be attacked to kill it. Okay, let's talk about a planeswalker that instantly gives you value. It's Narset Parter of Veils. Tick Narset down to find that non-creature, non-land spell that you've been looking for, but more importantly, it combos with wheel effects to just destroy the game. That's something to keep in the back of your head because it is powerful, I can't deny that. Also, people like drawing extra cards, so shutting that down with Narset is also a pretty powerful move. This coming in at 88 cents is pretty good. I love that it instantly replaces itself while providing limitations on the game. Just thumbs up for the value of this card. Massacre Girl is a permanent based board wipe. You know, it's not Nevinyrral's Disc or something like that. And I know that many of you have seen, you know, Nevinyrral's Disc be recurred over and over again, or Oblivion Stones to just keep wiping the board. You can do something similar with Massacre Girl. Just keep bringing it back onto the battlefield and creating more and more sort of small board wipes. It's pretty good. I've seen it to great effect in a lot of recursion decks. I've used it myself in my Muldrotha deck because it's great to just have this selective board wipe just sitting in my graveyard that I can cast. The price tag is great, 24 cents for this effect. You know, board wipes are usually really, really expensive, especially in other colors. Like Damnation has never been a cheap card. And so the fact that Massacre Girl can be that card, especially if you build your deck around it, is really good. There's the downside that it doesn't get rid of what you want. It is definitely a limiting board wipe, but I've found that there's a lot of different workarounds, which makes Massacre Girl really effective. All right, let's talk about card draw in green. This should have gone right next to Narset in blue, but Vivien Champion of the Wilds is honestly just a green cantrip. I think that you slam it, you immediately downtick, and then you draw your creature card, okay? And that's almost all that needs to happen. You know, you can tick it down again and draw 2 cards. That's this green divination. Cool. I like green divination, it's awesome. But also, if you have the protection for it that you need, you can kind of keep ticking up and then ticking down again. Giving your creatures flash is a powerful ability. Pair this with Wilderness Reclamation or Seedborn Muse, and you've got yourself a Prophet of Krufix. That's pretty good. Blast Zone is utility lands, and I think that people don't look at their utility lands closely enough. Blast Zone can be a selective board wipe for exactly what you need. Except for those damn tokens, but mostly exactly what you need. And a lot of times decks that can run a lot of utility lands, like colorless decks, can support the mana investment that it needs to put it into Blast Zone to be able to get rid of exactly what you need to get rid of. I'm a big fan of it, and I think that you should be too. Unfortunately, I think 350 is too high. So I'm hoping that the price tag goes down on Blast Zone a little bit. I want to be paying, you know, $1 or $2 for this card. Let's talk about a colorless card that I can get behind, Ugin the Ineffable. 6 mana is a lot for just a removal spell, but sometimes that's what you need in these colors. You know, I've regularly run a Karn in sort of a big ramp mono green deck just to be able to answer certain things, you know, and Ugin can sort of be that, you know, okay, I can, you know, in my mono red deck, I need to be able to answer this. And so I'm going to throw an Ugin in there, and it totally works too. Plus it to create dudes, to give you card advantage. It immediately can replace itself. That's so great. Destroy something, and this hits almost everything, but the thing that I like the most is this ability to go off in colorless decks. Reducing the mana cost by 2 in a deck that's predominantly colorless is so great. I've played an Ugin and then been like, oh, mana rock, use that to cast something else. It's like facilitates sort of dark rituals and huge mana advantage, which is such exciting playstyle. Above all else, under $3 for this card. Gives you dudes and card advantage and removal and ramp in some of these decks. Boom. Ugin is one of my top choices. Ugin, though, is not as exciting as Ilharg the Raised Boar. Man, turn Ilharg sideways and then land in the biggest, baddest creature that you can. Ilharg improves an archetype, and so that's why I'm super excited about this specific god. Actually, all of the gods are really good, and I don't have a problem with any of them, but I am going to shout out just one more instead of all 5, and that's God Eternal Kefnet. I like God Eternal Kefnet because $3 is very reasonable, and the ability to sort of double up spells, this copy effect, is surprisingly effective. I like the big brain play of setting up the top of your library, triggering it with Kefnet, casting it again, reducing mana cost, and it comes down on 4. Like in Commander, that's a pretty substantial turn, and so having a 4/5 flyer that's going to give you card advantage that's difficult to deal with is really strong. All right, Fibble Thip the Lost, 26 cents. Reprinted in Mystery Booster. Why am I mentioning this little creature? Because he's surprisingly good. Elvish Visionary goes in a lot of decks. Are you ever playing a Yarok deck? You know, are you ever playing a deck that has Enter the Battlefield effects? Do you ever want a deck that can sort of pod into something bigger? Disposable bodies on a creature are really, really worth something. And Fibble Thip is a really solid card for all of these decks. I think that it's also, by the way, it's legendary, and so that could be really good as well. Fibble Thip is just an easy inclusion into a lot of different decks. 26 cents, just really great. All right, one thing I mentioned about disposable bodies is Neoform. So Neoform lets you sacrifice a creature and go search for something bigger. And so the ability to play Fibble Thip, draw a card, sacrifice it, get a 3-drop that you really need, and then put a counter on it is really, really nice. Or go backwards, sacrifice your 1-drop to pull Fibble Thip out of your library and then draw 2 cards instead of 1. The value. All right. Narciss Reversal is incredibly powerful when it comes to a counterspell because it doesn't really counter it. It just copies and returns it. So it feels like a tempo play, but in all honesty, it can do a lot when our format is trying to land these big haymakers. Big burn spell. Nope, bounce it, copy it, I get it. If someone is tapping out for something like a big old burn spell to the face, then Narciss Reversal becomes like you getting that card and then also time walking that opponent. It's so strong. But of course, that doesn't even take into consideration effects like Rise of the Dark Realms. You're like, I'll bounce it back. I'll Rise of the Dark Realms. You can do that next turn when there's no creatures in the graveyard. Thumbs up. It's so good. I think that also Cyclonic Rift is just a really good target for this. It's like, oh, you want to rift everything else? Okay, no, I'm rifting everyone else. It's just so backbreaking. All right, the finales are so exciting. I'm a big fan of them. I mentioned Finale of Glory here because it's a mythic for under $2, and if you can get a bunch of mana, then you can put so much power and toughness on the board. But, Finale of Glory kind of pales in comparison to Finale of Devastation, which is by far the most powerful of the finales and probably the most powerful card that I've mentioned here. Seen in competitive formats all over the place, Finale of Devastation is just really solid, and the price tag shows it. Coming in at $20, it's not cheap, but it's essentially another copy of Craterhoof Behemoth, and Craterhoof Behemoth is a crazy powerful card. In fact, if you don't have a Craterhoof Behemoth, you might want to pick up a Finale of Devastation because it might prove more flexible and win you more games than Craterhoof Behemoth. I also like the ability, even though it's like a bad use of your mana, to just go and get a 1-drop or 2-drop. Sometimes that's all you need to be able to establish yourself into the mid game to get to the late game, where you can actually use, Finale of Devastation. All right, my final card isn't even from War of the Spark. It's Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. This is another card that was from the BioBox promo. And so a lot of people might overlook it. Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, because it's tied to the price of a box, is a little bit more expensive, $671. But this card is so much fun. So creatures and planeswalker spells you cast have affinity for artifacts. Insane. Okay, affinity for artifacts is so powerful. Like, we've seen the mana cost on affinity spells being like 7 mana for a 4/4, 4 mana for a 2/2. And those effects have been like really strong. Like affinity was a deck that almost broke Magic. And so just giving affinity to everything it's crazy. The cost reduction is insane. Okay, I'm getting off topic. You tick it up, it deals X damage to each opponent where X is the number of artifacts control, you gain X life. Like, I regularly am playing an artifact deck that has like 7 or 8 artifacts on the battlefield. And this is suddenly like dealing in the like 20 damage, just like boom, you guys all take 8, you know? Boom, all 3 of you take 7, 21 damage just gained right there. It's incredible. Okay, that's not even the end. That was the plus on Tezzeret. The minus is return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Not great when it comes to recursion, but sometimes you just might need this. Finally, -8. Again, hard to get up to the -8, but you know, exile the top 10 cards of your library, put all artifact cards from among them onto the battlefield. It's this kind of Ugin ultimate. But again, I think that if you're ticking this up twice in an artifact deck, and you've given all your cards affinity for artifacts, like, how is this not going to immediately take over the game? I love Tezzeret. In fact, I love War of the Spark. I think that Proliferate is a gross mechanic and is really, really strong. Planeswalkers are something that everyone loves, and so synergy, either when it comes to Proliferate or Spark Double, you know, for these Planeswalkers is really, really good. We've seen some powerful finales like Finale Devastation, even though it's $20. We've also seen some Planeswalkers that honestly should be staples, like Ugin the Ineffable, sitting at really reasonable prices, under $3. You know, Vivian, this green divination, if you can protect it, under $2. You know, even Nisha, who saw infinite standard play and people went crazy over, under $5. So we're seeing great prices, and this is not even all the Planeswalkers. Remember, there were so many uncommon Planeswalkers stuffed into this set. And so if you like Planeswalkers, if you like Proliferate, if you like +1/+1 counters, this is an amazing set for you. And even with all that synergy, there's still cards in here that are grossly powerful, like Bolus Citadel, Finale of Devastation. Just so good. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I've made 2 other videos about this, one of them from Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance. So check those videos out. They'll be somewhere around here. If you like these videos, please let me know. Tell me in the comments what War of the Spark cards you're going to be buying. Maybe they're not even on this list, and you can give someone else the heads up for cards they need to buy. I want to thank Cool Stuff Inc. You can get some of these cards over there. And if you use the coupon code JUMBO5, you'll get 5% off your order. I also want to thank my patrons. They support me every day. Thank you, patrons. And thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe because, you know, I'm putting these videos out at weird times. And I'm going to be talking about Zendikar. So you're going to want to get that video too. All right, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.